platforms, ones that have capacity to deliver conferences and, hundreds of people and users can come and interact, similar to YII, how they had, it was much more interactive than just a webinar. At least that was the goal. So we're trying to figure out how can we best support the user group program virtually for 2021. Some user groups are really eager to get back face-to-face late 2021. We just can't make any promises about financial support for events next year, just because we are not sure what the state of the world's going to look like. But more to come on that. And I'm eager to know anyone's feedback. If there's something that you'd like me to know when it does come to our 2021 planning, I'd love to know. I'd love to hear it. I'm collecting all this information from the users themselves in the user groups so that I can best represent you guys to the higher ups who are making those big decisions about what financial support looks like. So keep my contact. I'm open to any conversations you guys may want to have. As far as a set program, I'll have a updated 2021 program guide sent to you guys by the new year. So look out for that, but
Ryan,
a lot more to come.
Ryan, we might want to invite you to our officer meeting that's in December, if you can.
I actually do have that on
you have it on
my
your calendar.
schedule.
Yep. Yeah. So because so just to make you aware, so the user group, even though we don't have our physical thing, there's still expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
And WebEx and Zoom, in a way, are not free platforms. You do have to pay for them. Zoom is free as long as your meeting is less than 40 minutes long. And there's some different things, but key things to look at on the platform that we use is Teams allows me to record this meeting, which I started a little bit late. But it does not allow me to share that recording very easily with the people that need to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But if the teams have websites and or if we're real organizations registered with the IRS, we do have to do filings and pay those fees. And so with no support like we've had the past year, if we have a little bit of money to pay that, but newer ones, smaller ones may not have any money at all. So that's just something to keep in mind as you
Mark,
think
maybe
about
you
that.
could outline in just a quick email, just draft up some of the expenses that you see so that I can report that, because it is our understanding that there must not be a whole lot of costs involved with virtual meetings, and that's not the case. So
there are definitely costs in it.
Yeah, that's not the case.
If I had to guess, it probably cost $1,000 when you just look at all the little tiny things, right?
Yes.
Even if we don't meet in person, so just something to think about. But we can take that offline. But welcome to Bentley, and then helping us.
We're trying to figure out. Okay, so for the things that maybe you're going to be outlining, we want to make sure that all those are included, because that's the reality of our users. We don't want to assume it's free. We don't want to assume there's low cost. So if you want to just, brief me on some of that, I can better serve you guys to my boss and his boss.
Just as an example, but when you have virtual activities, you have to pay for sites to do that. And so there's or if you even want to have a website or maintain it or do different things, there are some free things, and we do our best to use them, but they're not always the best options. So I'll separately from this, we'll talk about it, and I'd like to have you involved in our user group. Many people in our group have been involved in our annual summit, and I would suggest that you look at planning early next year a virtual summit.
Mm-hmm. That is on the list of things that our user groups really did like and valued, and so we want to figure out how we can bring that back. That's definitely on the list.
Yeah. So the business items, basically I laid out, basically in 2020 we've continued to have our meetings every second Thursday is what we typically shoot for. And I think I'm assuming that will continue with the same thing, and we always try to lay out what we want to do as a target for the next year. And we've been talking about the topics that we have. And right now, we kind of have our learning conference / bash on the docket for late next year, so that if something allows us to do something real, it's far enough away that maybe it might. But
Sure.
I think it's prudent to come up with how can we put together an event that we can look at the best practices and how we can, sharpen our skills and the topics that we want to cover, regardless if we do a virtual or in person, and or a hybrid of the two that allows us to figure out what we want to do. So this is a list of what we have in plan for next year, and we'll probably, I think this is right. Yeah, I think this is right. So we're looking at I think we actually did the new more normal. I think we're looking at changing this around because I think we're moving Ed to January, Ed. But we're still massaging the schedule for next year, looking for input, and we'll move forward for 2021. Holy cow, it's been kind of a painful year. Any comments from anyone before we?
Yes, Mark.
Yay, Kathy.
Hey, Ryan, this is Kathy Pendergast. I'm the chair for the TBUG group. I noticed that you've got the bash on Veterans Day next year. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but
we did that. She didn't do that, so we can change it.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Good point.
Hi, Kathy. It's nice to put a face to a name.
It's nice to have a name. We don't see your face, so. But
we see. Oh, you probably just see initials because she's not. I see a picture of her, but you do not. So
I do not. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I get a picture of her, but I get initials for others. So.
Yes, eventually, I'm hoping to meet everybody in person down the line, but I don't look as great as I would like to for a Zoom call right now.
Ryan, you mentioned that we were one of your strongest groups.
Yeah, most active for sure.
And the reason that we have survived for so long as groups is because of Mark. I don't know what year he started with this group, but I started with it in 91 or 92. And he was part of that group when I started.
Well, actually, yeah, we were part of, I think it was 98, 96. We were in the first year that user groups became a user group. We were part of the first group. So.
And with the user groups, I mean, with them being user run, it really does take a couple dedicated, I mean, you're volunteering your time to organize this outside of your regular 9 to 5. So we definitely owe it to those couple officers who really put in that extra work to keep it running. It's a user run program. Yeah.
Kathy, likewise, she's like the camp mom.
Got to keep it under control.
She watches us. She's the one that reminds us when we're forgetting to do something.
Everybody needs that.
Yeah. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff. Jeff, if you want to share your screen, and I will stop sharing mine. There we go. And now I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
There we go. I was on mute. All right, so I've lost my ability to have any feedback. Hold on, where's it at? Yeah, Teams. Oh, there we go. Hey, all right, good. First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for y'all staying together. All that community's important. As we do all this canned stuff nowadays and digitize, it's really nice to have interaction. One question, and you can type this in while I can still see the thing. Is anyone here doing drainage right now? It looks like we have a lot of folks doing other things. And again, I'm not judging. I'm just trying to figure out how I talk. Because if y'all were like hardcore drainage, I'd talk hardcore drainage. If y'all are primarily road or other, I'll spin it towards that. So if you are drainage, type it in. Say, hey, I'm drainage. Or actually, you know what? What's your biggest goal out of this? If it's I'll show you what I'm going to go over, and you can see if that's the ballpark of what you're looking for, and if not, let me know. Okay. Okay. Drainage and road. Okay. So what? This is the agenda. Where do we find help? I'll go into and basically I'll show you the training. I'll show you the communities real quick, and then I'll get into the core demo. After that, question: do you see the screen? You don't see me. I'm making all these hand gestures, and I just realized that you probably can't see the hand gestures. But I'll do the core. I'll do some of the cool things that aren't core. We have some new stuff, and then I do want to mention next. But I'm going to go with primary drainage stuff, the primary core. I'm going to demo that, and then just kind of hit the stuff on the outside, the cool stuff, the new stuff, and whatnot. So feel free to type in questions. I may or may not get them, but if you see something good, Mark or anyone, just shout me out and say, hey, there's a really good question.
Yeah, I would say when you come to a breathing spot, and right now I see it like you're not presenting it, if that's how you want to be doing it, just so you're aware. And well, I mean, do you see, like when you went to the PowerPoint, it was just the slide with the things on the side. I see.
Yeah,
that's fine. Just
ignore
so
the
you know what's showing.
I don't. Every time I may have to go to presentation mode, but when it does, I don't really trust it, and it covers up other things.
Then you're going to lose the conversation. So
yeah, okay.
Continue.
All right. Yeah. So there's only a couple of canned things that I was planning to show PowerPoint, but those are just backups. All right, so what I have here, first of all, I'm still got a couple things before I pop into the demo. Open roads drainage essentially is StormCAD civil storm in open roads. And Scottsdale apparently drainage and roadway. So if you were in roads, you had sanitary right in that. And it was great because it was nice and tight. Storm and sanitary didn't do a whole bunch of complex hydraulics, so it was easy. I joke that it was easy for roadway guys to fake the hydraulics. That's honestly a little more difficult now because the hydraulics are more powerful. Let's see right here. So if you're used to inroads and storm and sanitary, StormCAD's more powerful. There's a level of complexity there. There were things were hard-coded and you didn't have a choice. You have a choice now. And as you know, when we have the opportunity to make choices, we have the opportunity to do something different than we expect. So there is a bit of a learning curve. StormCAD is, universally as universal in acceptance in drainage as there is. But it's not exactly what you're doing. It's almost out of the box is almost not exactly what you're doing. If you have StormCAD people doing stuff now, they can just bring it right in. So, but make sure you have review processes. Don't just click buttons, and there's a lot of built-in capabilities for quality control. So you'll definitely want to make that part of your workflow. Okay. Training. So, by the way, my name's Jeff Martin. I've been with Bentley for 12 years. I've been with inroads and storm and sanitary for, 27 or something. I've been in the industry for like 30. I'm in San Diego. Why'd I bring that up? I don't know. Learning though, where do you get training for this? Learn.bentley.com. I used to do this full-time writing training material, but I'm doing something else now. And in the 3 months I've been doing something else, we've added a whole bunch of, it's almost like once there are a lot of things happening. We do have a bunch of new training classes. If you go to learn.bentley.com, there are 3 learning paths for drainage. Well, this one down here, 2 learning paths really. This one is if you are brand new to open roads, this will get you started. You don't need to be a road guru to learn the drainage. You take, actually any of these will work. Start here or there. Let me show you what's new. So if we were to go into this learning path, these are all new classes that came out. Oh, this came out about 6 months ago. It's basically 4, 5, 6 hours of the primary layout. Something that's new, placing ditches. That was for a long time, we didn't really do ditches very well. We now do ditches well. And I'll talk about that. I'll demo that. It's definitely something I want to spend some time demoing. There is The sheets, this is a new class. I haven't even looked at it yet, but it's specifically for drainage engineers. How do you get your plans, profiles, and cross sections going? So there's a lot of new content. The one thing about open roads, drainage and utilities, it is a whole vertical. It is all the open flows stuff, all the haystead stuff, except for the water cat, of course. But it is massive. Okay, so places to get help. This one, it's if you go to communities.bentley.com and look for open roads, it'll send you to this link. But basically, there is a road and site wiki community. It has help for the open road side of things. But if you're going to have any deep discussions on hydraulics, go to the open flows community. So there are really two communities that cover your questions. Open roads is pretty much the environment, physical layout, details of structures. If you want deep hydraulics, this is a really good resource for it. And there's tons of material there. All right, before I get into the demo, I just want to mention this stuff. This is all came out in the latest release, which is 2020 release 3 or 10.9. I just want to highlight these because I'm probably not going to get around to it. Flex tables used to be a way to read data out of the database, but you could only see one scenario at a time, like say a 25-year storm or a 100-year storm or however you break down your design. You can only look at one at a time. Well, now we have the capability to compare two different things. So we can say, what's the hydraulic grade at a 25-year storm and a 100-year, and just compare them in the same report. So that's new. You can lay out mobile nodes along a center line or along a baseline, every 100 feet or so, whatever you want to do. That's new. We've always been able to read well, I don't know if that's true or not, but the reading, when you place a inlet, and I'll show you that in a minute, it reads the cross slope. They clean that up a little because it used to be when you place an inlet, it would read directly under the cursor, which a lot of times you're placing an inlet, it's on a flow line, it's in a gutter. And you need the cross slope of the road, which is not in the gutter, it's next to the gutter. So they've cleaned that up where you actually read the cross slope of the road. That's new, probably not gonna get back around to that. New fields in the database. So if you do a report or you wanna see the information on inlets, it'll list the smallest diameter and the largest diameter. So these are the enhancements, and this is just detail. I will probably forget to mention any of these things again. It's in the README notes, and I think we're ready to demo here. All right, unless you guys want to stay on PowerPoint. No, let's not do PowerPoint.
I think we're good.
Yeah. All right, so this is a road and a lot of cut. Data set's a little different than I thought. I thought I had a curbed road here, but it turns out it's a shoulder going into a gutter. But I'm going to just start with the most fundamental thing, which open flows, haystead, stormcat, it starts with nodes and conduit. So in order to, like, if you had this is one assumption that's different from say storm and sanitary. You can't just have a pipe that goes under a driveway, free entrance, just a pipe, nothing on either end. You always have to start with a node. Okay. Open roads is BIM ready. It's ready for the digital twins, and one of the fundamental tenets of, by the way, that's a good movie, go see Tenet. One of the fundamental tenets of BIM is that you don't just have stuff, you got to have categorized stuff. And so everything in open roads, not just the drainage part, everything starts with the feature definition, and that's the object type. So same thing here, and this is universal. When you place something, you want to give it a feature definition. And we've broken it down. We have things like inlets. And we got the HEC 22 inlets in there, and we got a variety of other things. We have head walls, tons and tons and tons and tons of head walls. If anyone is going to if anyone's planning on implementing this, if you are responsible for doing standards and all that, type that in, because I'll throw asides in there for you. Bottom line is we have out of the box, this is what you'll see. You're going to have tons and tons and tons of a really robust workspace. Okay, I'm going to pick an inlet, and I'm going to pick a combo inlet, generic combo. There we go. All right, and once it knows what type of structure it is, it'll adjust the dialog box for the stuff it needs. So, okay, so we've given it its type, it defaults a name, and then it needs to know the physical stuff. The prompt, it says select element for node elevation or reset. So if I were to right click, I could type in an elevation. Once I click anything in the terrain, it says, okay, you know what? I have some additional capability. If you want to have a drainage catchment, a drainage area defined as you go, it'll do it. So follow my prompts here, and I'll just throw, I know there's a ditch here, so I'll tell you what, I'll make it a ditch inlet. Okay. And I know there's a ditch. I can turn things on in here, but I know that's my ditch. I'm going to place it here. It says, okay, I know the elevation because I read it from the surface. Now, what about the rotation? I hit a data point to say absolute. Okay, so this now it wants another data point for the rotation. Okay, did a couple things. So there's my 3D model. Excuse me, that's actually 2D. And there's my drainage area. And it looks like a fairly large one. So everything, I placed it here, and it turns out there's a crest here. So we got this big, huge area draining there. Obviously, that won't be our final design, but you saw I went through it. Tell you what, I didn't take a lot of data clicking to get there. So let me place another one, and I'm going to place this in that catchment, and I'll clean that up later. So okay. Absolute, I can also say relative to an alignment. So if I have curb openings, I like them to be parallel to the curb. I can do that. I'm not going to do that now. Data point here. Okay, and there's that drainage area there. So that was what, 4 or 5 clicks? And I'm going to do a right click, and I'm going to say view control, and I'm going to look at this in 3D. So I'm working in a 2D model here. One of the weird things about OpenRoad, or new and unusual things on OpenRoads, if you've been using anything prior to that, it likes to have multiple models in the same file. It likes to have 2D and 3D. You work in the 2D, it does the 3D for you automatically. And why am I hanging up here? Let me try it again. There we go. So what I did is 2D and 3D at the same time, and it takes a look at what's shown in the 2D view, and then it shows the 3D in the same area. So as you saw, I only created a handful. With a handful of clicks, I was able to create a really, one could argue, overdone 3D model. Okay, but that is in 3D. It's BIM ready and all that stuff, because BIM also requires a 3D spatial location. Okay, let's do a pipe between it. So very quickly, we get this really intense and photorealistic model. If I want to go there. Start node, that means the upstream. End node, that's the downstream. All right, the one thing, and this is cool. Uh-oh. It's going to be popping up, I'm sure. One thing that's really cool about this, and I have not, let's do a save just in case I crash. It's like skiing. If you're not crashing, you're not trying hard enough. Okay, so you're not pushing your limits enough. All right, so I placed a drainage area. I haven't seen any other software do this. I placed this drainage area. I placed another basin in there, so it's going to intercept that flow. So this area here is really intercepted by that, so that's no longer valid. Okay, there is a what I do, and you can do multiple selections here, but you do a click and hover, which is one of the easy ways to get places in OpenRoads. Click and hover. Sorry, I'm grabbing the drainage area. I want the other one. I want the inlet. There we go. That's what I want. That is the recalculate. I'm hoping that won't crash. So basically what you do is you can select a bunch of those, and it will recalculate the drainage area so that, notice now, it recognizes that there is something uphill, upland, and it adjusts the drainage area automatically. I don't know any software that does that. That's really cool, and that's new. All right, and then you can, now I only got a couple things in there, but the way you create profiles from that is, I'm going to say from links, it's called a profile run. And if you have folks that didn't attend who work with StormCAD, most of what I'm doing is straight out of the open flows, the Haystead stuff. So they would already be experts at this. They do have a little 3D environment that's new to them. We have some classes where we just focus on what's new. It's called navigating the interface. And I can say, let's see, there's 3 different profile models. These 2 are what they're already using in StormCAD. This would be the open roads view of things. Okay, so that's it in 3D, and it's editable. Everything's in the database. The one thing I do want to show, focused on time here, that is new. It was probably 3 years ago. Wow, I'm not quite sure, but I was in Alabama and we were going all this stuff, and Phil says to me, drainage engineer chief there, he says, "Hey, you know what? That's great that you can do this this road stuff, the pipes, but we do almost nothing. And AlDOT, we are almost entirely rural, which is channels. Do you have channels training?" I said, "We barely have channels functionality." So that's actually one of the biggest things that came out with this new release is we have channels functionality. I think I've got, let me go back to the PowerPoint, but we had some channels functionality we did not have before. Okay. And so rural versus urban. Urban tends to be piped and rural tends to be open ditches. Okay. I've been debating on whether to make this analogy or not, but I have to now.
Jeff Ermis does have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let him speak to what that is, Jeff. Go ahead,
Okay.
Ermis.
Yeah, I had a quick question. When you selected your new terrain, if you have a case when partial so contribution also comes from existing terrain, can you define like two different terrains for contributing area?
I don't know if y'all remember Rumsfeld. I'm going to pull a Rumsfeld here, and you ask a question, I'm going to give you a different answer. I'm going to rephrase your question. If you have different land use types like pavement and say grass or something like that, you can go here, and one of the feature definitions is the type of, and I skipped over this before because it was already set up for me, but you can pick the land use type for your runoff coefficient and your default times of concentration. You can do that individually. One thing they'll do in the future, because they had that in GeoPack, was what will happen now is, in fact, let me just pop over there real quick. So when I pick something, it says catchment. And it will pick the current, here we go. So I was picking a pavement, okay? And you can have as many of these as you need, but basically it's your default runoff coefficient and your default time of concentration. Okay, I still didn't answer your question. So that's one way to make sure your time of concentration is correct and your runoff coefficient. If you want to weight it, you can pick a weighted one where you say, I assume it's half pavement, half grass, and you come up with a weighted, whatever your weighted coefficient is there, or you can individually delineate the pavement versus the drainage. I mean, the more pervious stuff. That will be automatic in the future. All right, your question was what about different terrains, and that raindrops don't care. You need one terrain because say I'm a raindrop. People say that all the time. People are saying that I'm a raindrop. So I fall on the ground and I'm on dirt. No, I'm going to fall on the pavement. Then I'm going to go to the dirt. So I fall on the asphalt and I start traveling downhill. I don't care, as a raindrop, I don't care whether that pavement is modeled in one surface and then there's a different surface for the existing. We have tools to model that into one. So if you have different terrains, the raindrop don't care. Honey badger don't care. Raindrop don't care. It needs to be one place so it can continue. Because right now the raindrop will stop at the edge of a terrain. So, and this is one of the things I say, for the most part, if you have roadway engineers, they should put your proposed terrain on top of the existing terrain, merge them together. but a lot of times they don't, but it's very easy to do that. So the long answer to your short question was, if you have multiple terrains, merge it into one. It's very easy. And let the raindrop go where it needs to go. It needs to keep going downhill until it gets to an inlet. And you don't want it to have to switch into a different terrain to get there. Merge them all into one. And if your issue is, runoff coefficient, there's ways to handle that. So that was a long answer. I apologize for that. Everyone else is like, move on. I just care about WaterCAD. So, but no, that's the value of me not being a video. All righty. Of course, we're on video for we're recording, so we have that too. All right. Where was I? Oh, so for drainage ditches, I was going back to the PowerPoint here. There is, okay, this was the issue. We had, we didn't really have I think it was 2.5 years ago, we did a demo on, in fact, it's further down the road here. I have the demo, this data set. It worked 2.5 years ago. I was writing a class, and here was the issue. By default, when you went, here's the terrain, when you wanted to place a ditch and you're using the place node tool, it would assume that this was the case. No, excuse me, this is the case. It always wanted to put the ditch under the ground. The problem is if you have a terrain, like a proposed terrain, where you, or even an existing terrain where that ditch or channel is already there, it would always want to put it, whatever the minimum cover was for pipes. So if a minimum cover was 3 feet, it would always throw that underneath. So we had a workflow for this, but not this. So what's happened with 10.9, the release 10.9, is when you go to place node and you go to a head wall or a cross section or an outfall, you have this option here. So now with this option, and we have a couple other things on the conduits, now it doesn't matter whether your terrain models an existing stream bed or it's not part of it. You've got a new ditch going into a new ditch going into existing terrain. You just make sure you toggle this on properly, yes or no. Okay. So the end result is we now service the rural communities with ditches very cleanly. And frankly, it's been overdue for a really long time, but it's really cool. It's really works now. And I want to point out one other thing. There is training on right now. If you go to the Learn server and you say, hey, Jeff has me so inspired about placing ditches. We do have a class called Placing Ditches right now, because we wrote that, and this like the last thing I wrote before I switched positions here. It is good for the, it throws it on the ground. It does not have the invert is elevation. So that training class is relatively short, and it is for putting ditches where no ditches in the terrain. I'm going to demo it now. So I'm going to go to place node. And again, everything is based on the feature definition. It's not just a good idea, it's BIM. So we go down to, we can do head walls, outfalls. I'm going to do cross sections. So if you have an existing, I think we have a little existing thing here. We have actually, you know what, it's everywhere. We have, so our terrain here has, you can tell by the contours, it has ditches next to the road. Okay, there's also ditches up here at the top, cutoff ditches. Oh, right here. A lot of ditches in the terrain. And if that's the case, we want to model what's in the terrain. We would say the elevation is the invert. Okay. And again, I'm going to use cross sections now. Okay. And the reason this is valuable, this part, if I dwell on it a little bit, is because we don't have a lot of training on this yet. It's imminent, but right now this may be the only thing we see. Okay, so cross sections are like, for example, if you got a concrete ditch, you can pick concrete, and these are sizes that are hard coded essentially. So this is like 4 foot wide, 1 foot deep with 2-to-1 sidewalls. Okay, you might have grass. Okay. Something that's new in 10.9 is you could say grass is the material for the the Manning's roughness. Okay, and then from terrain. Okay. What we can do is say, I don't know what that cross section is. It's an existing stream bed, so I want it to pick, because it's from terrain and it's in our prototypes. And I can say, let's do this. I want to pick a 10. I want to create a. Let's go 15 feet. I'm going to create a fit. It's going to be 30 feet wide. I believe that's 15 feet to either side. I need to pick the terrain. And then where do I want to put this? So I have no idea what that slope is, or excuse me, what that cross section for that stream is. Okay, so I threw that in there, and I'm going to go ahead and place a couple. Put one here. Same thing. It's reading the terrain. Oops, I did that wrong. Wasn't paying attention. I'm losing the ability to talk and click at the same time, which is not a good thing for demos or instruction. All right, and I'll delete that other one in a second. So, all right, I'm gonna throw this in here. All right, so let's go ahead and click, and I'm gonna get this sideways one out of there. Click and hover. Okay, ditches. So, and this is left over from the way Hasted OpenFlows thinks. For the link, the conduit, the channel, essentially, I'm going to pick. There's a couple things. We can have channels with specific cross sections. You know, we can have something that is, you know, concrete, precast, something like that, where we know the cross section is going to be the same thing all the way. Or this cross section channel from node takes its cross section from, and I believe we're going, this is the upstream. It takes it from the node that's attached to it. So whatever that terrain is, it's going to read a cross section there. And this channel will be that cross section, and it can transition from this cross section to that cross section. There's a toggle on that. And the one thing I want to show you is, and again, I've worked with this data set before, but my memory is very short on this sort of thing. It baffles my wife. I just told you that. How come you forgot it? Because it didn't require me to remember it. She goes, yes, it did. All right, so let's see, snooze that. Properties, this is the hydraulic properties. There is a collection of 30 items. This is the, anything is a collection, essentially, it's a table. So this is my cross section. And there was a toggle saying, hey, if it's not draining to it, you know, don't include it, but I ignored that. So here, this is my cross section here. And you saw it was really easy for me to do that. And I guess I got to kill that before I pan. So this makes the natural stream beds or proposed channels or ditches very easy to, let's look at this collection here. Really easy to model the existing ground. So again, I didn't do any work. I just clicked on it and it drew it for me. It does the math. Yeah, so channels work. And again, if you had the stuff along next to the road and all that stuff where you know it's a trapezoidal channel and it's concrete and all that stuff, you just place it. Any questions on that? Has anyone been waiting for that? For a really good, it's a really nice workflow, really powerful, good math. All right, let me pop over into the demo. Okay, so that kind of covers the core, the coolest stuff. So we have a really robust urban and rural core of functionality. And again, all this stuff is fully integrated into the open roads. So if you're familiar with open roads, you can expect the, you know, what you expect with open roads elements, you know, curbs, pavement, all that stuff. You have, and there's a full-on database in the data file, in the DGN. It's not in some external file that you have to chase down. It's all in the DGN. Spatially, it's good. It really does integration, conflict detection well. And honestly, I think it's been out 4 or 5 years, 4 years. It's robust. It's there's still, honestly, the sheets, it's like doing roadway sheets. It's a complicated thing that's not very fun. Whatever gaps in the functionality there were are being closed. Rural was the biggest gap. The fact that we didn't have a good channels deliverable. Cool things. If you have StormCAD folks, some of the pitches you can make to them and honestly, we have StormCAD people in Bentley who don't want to come to open roads because they're like tables. They're weird. But it's like, come on, guys. I think I actually have the arguments here. Well, I'll just, it is 2020. BIM is coming. And time is moving forward. So we're not going to get less integrated. We're becoming more integrated. So one of the things you get from this full vertical and full capabilities of the open flows vertical in the open roads environment is you get some really interesting things with, say, aquaplaning. Don't know if y'all are required to do aquaplaning planning. I know it was led kind of by Australia. But if you want to see how deep the water flows, and it's called 2D analysis, we have that. Something new is gutter flow. So, spread. I'll show that demo because it's only about 3 minutes long. Lids, so low impact development, and what's that? What's the new name now? Sustainable urban drainage systems. We do that. So these are some major cool things. Let's see, is there anything? I want to make sure. Oh yeah, the one thing I want to hit because time-wise, one of the more important things to hit is next, and then we can wallow in some of the other current cool things. But the one thing I really here we go. This is the big thing that I talked about, how we're closing the gaps so that we have a lot more annotation, integration, just the ability to annotate things in a reference file. All those things that were inconvenient before, we were making more convenient. The biggest gap we had was parametric cells. And I'll show you one of the challenges. And one of the things that's been slow, one of the reasons it's been slow for DOTs to get going on this, or municipalities that are doing the setup, moving to open roads, is we kind of wanted to show how amazingly beautiful. I mean, you got to admit that is an amazingly beautiful render of an inlet, right? I know even folks who are not into that are like, he's got to admit that is a render there. Out of the box, instant. So we put this workspace together where we have literally, I mean, I'm not kidding, literally thousands of individual, okay, look, so our flared end section concrete's got a 12-inch diameter, 15, 18. All right, each one of those had to be done individually. So someone had to model these things. And so there were literally thousands of these things. And so Virginia DOT, who I worked a lot of time with, but everyone said, well, my catalog shows 10,000 types and variations based on pipe size, double, we got 2 pipes, so we got to go through. And that's flared end section, that's steel, and that, so we had literally thousands of structures that you had to build a cell, 3D cell, for each and every one of them. Okay, one of the things that's coming now, and it's really the highest priority. It should be out in the next release, which is, I don't know if it'll be 2021 release 1 or, but parametric cells. So you draw the cell once parametrically, and so, for example, you have a curb opening that's 12 feet long, but that's parametric. You can also just programmatically say it's now 8 feet long, it's now 6 feet long, it's now, so you draw it once and you can have multiple sizes. Okay, that does a couple things. One, it allows you to build a really fantastic system and spatially correct without having to build every single one of them. The other thing it allows us to do is it allows the software to automatically resize things, which other than pipes, it doesn't do for structure. So if you have a 6-foot vault versus an 8-foot vault, and you run an analysis, it will not resize your curb opening. It will not resize your vault because the hydraulics work and you can run your reports, but the size of the 3D cell doesn't update automatically. That we are expecting in the next major release. Okay, so it makes it easier to implement, and it makes it clearer on your design and then your plans. Let's see, I've got a few minutes left. What I can do, I think I can, I'm not sure if the videos, if the audio comes through, but I do want to show this one because it's cool. And that
you can speak over it, or there's a setting to turn on your audio from your computer in the settings. But
in fact, what I may do is, if you can't hear the audio, I may just take questions. But this, let's see, I have to go to. So if you have questions, type them in, or even go on mic and ask them. No, not that. Sorry, escape. I want to go from. But yeah, since we have a few minutes left, it's like if you have questions, if you just let's ask questions rather than, because these demos exist. Oh, one last thing. My job right now is to get all this. Right now, if you go to the Learn server, you go to the communities, you go to YouTube. We have stuff all over the place, and it's really hard to find anything. My job now is to take the civil stuff, and we have a new system that will be a one-stop shop where everything will be available in one place. So you look for, hey, I want drainage, or I want to see gutter flow, and it'll videos will show up right from there. So one of the things about prepping this demo, it's like
Irma does have his hand up, just so you know.
Yeah. All right. But prepping for this demo, I had to go find things all over the place, and I was thinking, boy, this is providing me content that I need to make sure we hook up, and boy, it'll be nice when we go to one place for everything. Irma, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. One item we have had lots of challenges when you have between two nodes, you have a curved conduit. It's not like in a straight line, and now it seems like really challenging to get, let's say, if you have a curve in a conduit.
We can do that, and I can probably demo that in a second. This example here is showing we have a gutter that goes around a curb return there, and what they're running through in this 3-minute is they are going to show that the command does a trace slope, so it follows the gutter wherever the terrain goes. It follows that, and then it routes the flow through that. And so what you'll see here is, and you can put in curved pipes. Like I said, I can pop on that in a second. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is overkill or showy offy in the sense that I don't know how it's. Spread is a really important design constraint. Okay, so this is the stationing along the gutter around the curb, and so there's a table there, and you can see there's your the dash line is the spread constraint. You got the depth constraint, and then you actually have the actual hydraulic grade. If you do a time varying analysis, you can actually have right now we're doing peak flow, but you can actually see the HGL go up and down. But what it will do is that station and the depth, it will go ahead and create a prismatic 3D. So you can show it. You can show it to your friends. You can show it to your friends in the city council who aren't drainage geeks. And right now, Jonathan's kind of showing where that came from, but where those settings are set, but he'll push a button here and you'll see the 3D spread, and that's just something that this whole thing about being in an immersive 3D environment sounds like it's eye candy and it's kind of useless or just not important. But the reality is, when we're sharing with people who aren't cult members, if you will, like we are, they can see things visually and they understand things inherently more directly with visualization. Let's see. Again, he keeps the good stuff towards the end. And basically what he's doing here is he's going ahead and changing some of the individual. You can have local overrides so that when you run your reports, one way people like reports, so you can get a flag in a report saying that it's greater than the accepted value. All right, so show gutter flow. There we go. So there you can see, I'm going to pause it. So this is typical. Whoops. Okay. Here's the spread. It's getting thicker and thicker as the rain contributes to it. As soon as it hits the inlet, it drops down to, the inlet doesn't capture all of it, but our spread is reduced by the inlet, which is the whole point. And I don't know if he zooms out or not, but that is a 3D thing that you can render. And again, it becomes very, to me, this is candy that it's a result. It was easy for them to do because we have this integrated common data model now, common data environment. And that's really one of the great things about Open Roads and the Connect edition is everything works together. Whereas, it's one DGN file, it's one data format, and you can reference things in. It's designed to work with the reference material. It allows them to do this sort of thing. We really couldn't do that before. So this common data environment really allows you to, who knows what sort of integration we're going to have in a couple of years from now. Reality modeling, if you're not using that yet, take your cell phone out, walk the site, and you got a 3D model that you can reference right in. All right, I'll tell you what, let me kill this, and you asked a question on the curve pipe, so let me show you real quick the curve pipe. Let's see, escape. There you go. So the way the curve pipe works, I'll throw another inlet down there. And they really don't let me engineer anymore because I do things like this. I'm just going to throw it randomly, and then I'll place this pipe randomly. And I was doing that, just doing that on my job, and they said, you know what, you're going to take your license away. No, that's not true. All right, so I'm throwing a structure in there. Don't know why that's coming up. So the way to do any curve pipe, every time you have a conduit start node, where you're starting from. Oh, you know what? I probably threw the wrong type in there. It's smart. It won't let you place. This is my conduit. Oh, I was trying to do a channel. See, it's still a channel. It says you can't do a channel from an inlet. You got to do a pipe from an inlet. So I'm going to pick a pipe. Corrugated metal pipe, doesn't matter. So you go like this, and I skipped over this prompt before, but it says Alt to place curves, Control to place bends. So if I hit Control, it'll allow me to put kinks in. Now the thing is, what I'm doing here, it is a single slope the entire way. Okay. So if you need to break the slope, you need to throw a node in there. But I'm going to right click out of that and do it again. So right click. All right. So your curve pipe, again, I want to wait as long as possible to actually answer your question, apparently. So start node. All right, curve pipe is you hit Alt. So I'm hitting Alt. And it says, what's the end node? And then it's going to want its, there we go. So there we go. There's a curve. Now, if I were going around a curve, I'd want to match that curve, but that is how you do a curve pipe. What else you got for me? We had a game called Stump the Chump. Any drainage questions? Any questions at all? Is there any way I can help you?
Well, we have your contact information so that if we
Mark
follow up.
Schneider at bentley.com.
Yep,
No, Jeff.Martin at
Jeff
bentley.com.
Martin.
At bentley.com, yep.
And well, even if you send it to me, I'll forward it on. So if you can't remember Jeff, send it to me.
Yep.
Go ahead and follow that on.
Yeah, and frankly, it's I've been with this. It took probably 12 years for Storm and Sanitary to get solid. And in 4 years here, we have an amazing. There were gaps. It's a really, really good number cruncher, and the integration now into the 3D environment is it's a really solid product. And Open Roads is fun to do engineering in, so I really like it. It's really capable.
And Joan, who typed a message in, she actually was telling everybody she comment about watching the YAI content, specifically that iTwin one, but there's a lot of good content. And like Jeff said, he's working, his new job is to find a way to make all of the available content be where it's easy to get to. and broken into bite-sized chunks so that you can look what you're looking for, find just the task and get the answers without having to spend days looking through videos.
Yeah.
So
I like to think that Bentley's got like that warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. We got
right.
stuff in there, you can't find anything.
It's in there somewhere. Yeah, so it's your job to organize the ark.
Yeah.
Or organize the warehouse with the ark. Sorry.
Filter out all the stuff you don't need in that warehouse.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. And
thanks for having me.
If anyone is interested in what we're planning to do for next year, please reach out and we'll coordinate and have a meeting in December to plan for next year.
Sounds
Any
good.
last comments?
Did
If
you
not,
take attendance?
say it again.
Did you take attendance?
I took a screenshot of all the people,
Okay, cool. Thanks.
but it didn't have emails, which makes it more difficult if they're not on my list. So
Yeah, and there was Jamie who actually didn't have a last name, so you might want to.
yeah, Jamie, what is your last name, Jamie? Jamie?
He replied.
Oh, did he? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. That helps. I think you're with Maricopa County, I believe. So, okay. Thanks. I would have looked through the list for Jamie and tried to guess. So appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Yeah, I
everybody.
think-